Thank you. We're back. And I just thank you that we've got in the hot seat tonight. It's going to be Deacon Stark from Mount Pleasant Baptist,
Yes.
and then we're also back with our friend Julie, who was doing a slideshow with us a little bit earlier.
Wonderful.
But Deacon, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having us.
And you're organizing the anniversary celebration of it at the church.
That is correct.
And also the community outreach and how this ties in with Fairfax County history at large.
That is correct.
So that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So I thought that we'd have you here together. Julie was just showing us some of the slides that she inherited from her in-laws and that have been part of the church collection. And I wanted to sit with you and we'll just all chime in as Julie's talking a little bit more. So if you want to continue with where you're going with the church history.
Wonderful.
And then we'll be talking a little bit more about the future and your future plans.
Okay, great.
Great.
Okay, so after Reverend Baltimore, we had Clary Brown, and he was there for a short period of time. And then, of course, we had Harry J. Pilson as our pastor, and he served quite a few years. Now our current pastor is Reverend Carl M. Johnson, and this is a picture of him and the First Lady Robin Johnson, and their family, of course. And this is our crest that we have at the church, and the moving forward with God is our theme for this year. Okay. I think that's about it on this particular slideshow.
Right.
We do have some other photos that we had of the 100th anniversary program that was done.
Maybe the crew can let me know when that comes up.
Okay.
Oh, I see there's a few
there
in the
they
back
are.
of me.
Okay, this is Reverend Milton Shepard. This is in what we now call the Pinkett and Shepard Memorial Chapel. And these were our, quote, trustees back then. And we really admired them, but they are all long since gone. And this was taken like in 1967. So this was celebrating the 100th year. So if we have a couple more, we can show those and see what that church is like during that particular time frame.
1967.
1967. Now these were the deacons at that time. Of course, we didn't have that many today. I think we have, how many Deacon Starks?
We have about 15 deacons
15
today.
deacons at this particular point in
those are
time.
the men that I'm following,
Yes.
which are some.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they're doing quite a good job there.
Absolutely.
Okay, next photo, please. And this is the church school staff. The young lady in the back, which is right next to Reverend Shepard, she's still our superintendent of Sunday school. And one of the older members beside her almost is Barbara Daggs. She's also quite knowledgeable of events in Mount Pleasant. She's 80. She's in her 80s now. I won't tell her how old she is. But
do we see
anyway.
Bill in there anywhere? Bill Gordon, is he?
Bill when he was
Bill
kid?
Gordon,
Is he
I
one of the
think
kids?
he said he was one of the kids there.
Yeah.
And he was trying to calculate how old he was at that particular point in time.
Absolutely.
But we thought these would be interesting to show some of the history and the changes in people over the years.
Right.
I think there's one. These are the deaconesses. They have since long gone, and there we again have 6. And I think we probably have about 12 or 13 of them
Absolutely,
now
yes.
at the moment. And this is the congregation. As you can see, the church is packed during this particular thing. The ushers are standing here in the back.
And they're 100.
And
Yeah.
things have changed there. We now have stained glass windows, and we have a beautiful stained glass in the back. That was done by one of the members, but that's not the current stuff. So we'll have to come back to update you on everything that we've done.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's something, yeah.
And there's some more.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we'd love to send a camera crew to interview you personally and maybe come to a service or come to interview some folks. Mary, who's 100 and couldn't be here but is watching. So that's why I was like, hi, Mary.
She just celebrated that over the weekend, I believe it was.
So we'll she's like, Mary, you can't be here, but we're going to come get you.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, and so definitely, and so this is only the first part, and so, because your anniversary celebration is in September.
That is correct.
So we'll be doing a little bit between now and September. And Fairfax's anniversary celebration, I believe, is 17th of June.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we'll be
Wow.
talking a little bit more between now and June, and we'll be talking about different communities because right now you're in Mason District, but of course there's a lot of Providence District history and a lot of Franconia area history. So there's we hope to touch upon all of the districts in Fairfax County and a little bit of more of Alexandria and Arlington, but there's so much to cover, and so just in your area, and also and of course now that your church is an influence in DC as well. You have DC residents and a lot of leadership. So I'd want to touch upon how the leaders that have come up through the ranks in your church, and also some of the leaders that were strong in the community and part of the 60s civil rights movement. So if you might want to.
Well, as Julie has shown on some of the photos that she presented, one of our key deacons that was instrumental in the civil rights movement was Deacon Sidney Holland. And Deacon Holland, again, a man that I was able to serve under, and he lived to be well into his 80s and 90s. But again, he was very instrumental in getting blacks integrated into the school systems within Fairfax County. Like Mrs. Bird talked about the housing, getting affordable housing for black citizens in that area. He was very instrumental in that. He was also very instrumental in the NAACP and getting, making sure that we as African Americans and black citizens within Mount Pleasant and in the community go out to vote, because that's where the power starts, is when we register and go out to vote. So he was very instrumental in getting us out to vote, registering to vote, and just all about making sure that we exercise that right as black citizens. So again, I had the pleasure of serving under him as a deacon, but also watching him as a citizen of the people, because he was really one that really cared about advancing black citizens in the community and also in the church. So you just could not protest, be a protester if you hadn't registered to vote or cast your vote, because Deacon Holland, for one, was adamant about us getting out and registering and voting. So yes, I have to follow leaders like that. So.
And so what inspired you? Did you grew up in this church as well, or?
I did not. I'm a sort of transplant. I've been in Mount Pleasant now for about 25 years, but when I came to the community, I think Mrs. Bird talked about it and Bill talked about that when we came to Mount Pleasant, it was just the warmth of the people, the fellowship of the people, and the whole congregation. So we just fell in love with the church and the people there. And then, like I said, you saw some of the strong leaders within the church. I just mentioned Deacon Holland, but I can go to Trustee Robinson, Trustee Sidney. There's so many men that were on the trustee board, the deacon board, and ministers there that sort of helped influence me and my spiritual walk, also political walk as well. So, but it just a wealth of knowledge right there within the church family.
And what is it that I would say? There were times of courage. I'd walked into a sermon about a year and a half ago, but it was during African American History Month last year, and it was either a visiting pastor or your pastor was talking about. He was putting it in spiritual terms, in terms of always feeling spiritually protected. But he was saying, God is better than any alarm system, kind of thing. But he was saying that there was a time that he was in very real fear, for him and his family. And I don't know if he was speaking out at that time or if it was just the way it was, but he was just saying there's a time that he wanted to, lock the windows and doors, and then, all he could do is pray.
Right.
And so, And so, I didn't know, and so you've heard some inspirational talks just last week. So how, what have you heard that?
Well, I think as we go back through the history of Mount Pleasant itself, the 150 years that we've been established, or the church has been established, and seeing those men and women that came up that was free, they had just received their freedom, to come up out of slavery, to establish something. You're leaving a place that you don't know about, or you knew about, that the harsh labor, coming up to an area that that gives you hope and opportunity, and establish a community that you can live in and grow in, and educate your children. I think we talked about being the ability to read and to write, to learn, to have that opportunity, and then growing up in a community during the Jim Crow era, during segregation, during the Civil Rights era. Again, that community, the Black church, was where we all, I think Sister Bird talked about, you felt a safety because you had family. Even though segregation was allowed to keep us separate, it kept us close together. And you have that warmth of family, even though you had the noise and the chatter around, the threats, you still was close. You felt safe because you were family. Not only in the church, but also your surrounding neighborhood and family.
And they were saying the land was deeded such that that's why people came here from other areas, because this was a safe haven and a haven for education.
Absolutely,
so,
absolutely.
And we hope to be talking about this a little bit more. There's so much to talk about, and we only have a minute left.
Absolutely.
But so tell me in a minute or so, what are the what's on your calendar? What should people keep on their calendar to come?
The anniversary celebration, of course, is in September. One of the things that we're really excited about, Fairfax County Historical Commission just approved Mount Pleasant with a historical marker. So we'll be having a ceremony. It takes about 12 to 8 weeks before we get that marker out. So we'll have a celebration for that as well.